That's a lot. That's like an OCD situation.
Yeah, it's always getting these podcasts started is always like a slight anxiety attack. Hey
I hear you.
everyone.
Yeah. I would want to like check it, like quadruple check it.
Yeah. Hey everyone. So welcome back to Pod Local. I got Eric Shapiro here with me.
Hello. How's it going, Tim?
Hey man. Hey.
Good.
So what's new, man? I haven't had you on the podcast in a while. What's new?
Yeah. When was the last time I was on? I think, I remember it being smoky outside. Was that my imagination? Was it over the summer?
Oh, I think it was. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it
Yeah. I just
was.
kind of flashback suddenly. I was like, wait a second. I think like my window was closed. My window in my bedroom is usually open just to, just to get air flowing. But I think on that day, I remember it being stuffy. And then, yes, that was going back like 7 or 8 months.
Oh yeah, man. It's been a
Yeah.
while. So what's new? What's new? What's
What
going
is
on?
new? Well, busy as ever, juggling, ghostwriting clients, speechwriting clients, the Milpitas Beat. Rhoda, my wife, and I, who run the Beat, have marketing clients. So just daily juggling with that and children, doing distance learning at home and so on. And, waiting for this pandemic to end is the big one. It seems like there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I've been hearing that for like 6 months now, so we'll
That's
see
true.
what
Yeah.
we'll see when the light gets here.
Yeah. What's interesting is they're saying, the numbers are going down, but the numbers are still, by any reasonable measure, kind of alarming. But
Yeah.
things are cooling. And what's interesting is I keep hearing, this blows my mind. I was curious your opinion on this. Like, experts keep saying it's partially the vaccine that numbers are coming, or the vaccines, plural, that numbers are coming down. But it's also just a change in behavior with masking. I'm like, wait, what change in behavior? Like, what, how, and why would that come about? Like, people over the holidays were very freely traveling and not masking. And just because we have a new president, I don't think would automatically mean that people would just, mask up or that the culture would change drastically. So I would assume it has to be the vaccines and the fact that the holidays are over. I mean, I'm not sure.
It's really not the vaccines though, because if
You
you
don't
look
think
at
it
the
is?
num
No.
if you look at the numbers with the vaccines, they do not match the numbers of cases that have gone down. So
Okay. Oh, it's not
um,
proportional. But where are the vaccines in terms of transmission? Is that an unknown? Like, we don't know if the vaccines curb transmission. Is that
they don't at all. They
They
don't.
don't.
No.
So in other
Yeah.
words, you and I could both be vaccinated and be asymptomatic, yet we could still both be carriers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
And
yeah.
that is one thing people don't understand. I've seen people
Okay.
say like I got vaccinated to protect my family. That no, all you're doing is protecting yourself. You're not
So it's
protecting your
one
family.
at a time. It's just a oneer. That is
Yeah.
interesting. How does it go with the flu though? Like, is it the same exact thing? Like, the flu is
No.
always out there, and if you're
Oh, yeah,
vaccinated, yeah. So you can still
So-
transmit it, but the idea is to inoculate yourself, and if as many people as possible do it, they're holding it. They're holding the disease down.
Yeah, so they say that
Yeah.
COVID is going to be just like HIV, just like the flu. It's always going to be
Yeah.
around. All you can do is protect yourself. So
Amazing.
and the reason why you can still transmit it is because it's a respiratory disease. So
Okay.
just because you're not getting sick, it's still in your nostril. It's still
Okay.
in your saliva. It's still in your
Right.
system. You're just not getting sick.
Right. So
Um,
your immune system is mounting a defense against it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
and
creepy.
so
One of the things that bugs me out against the whole about the whole pandemic is just that it's always like, I never thought about that before with the flu or anything. Like, it's always present. That all
Mhm.
we're doing is like putting ourselves in little glass vaccine boxes and that just blows my mind completely.
Well, yeah, and eventually, just due to adaptation, eventually we're going to be just immune to it.
Okay.
But that's going to be like 3 generations, 4 generations.
Okay, that was my next question.
Um,
That would seem like it would be at least decades.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
And so the what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to get everyone who's vulnerable to dying and being very sick by this. We're trying to get them vaccinated. That way,
Right.
those people can re-enter society. They can re-enter their work. They can go shopping, and they don't have to worry. And soon, once the majority of the people are basically immune to the virus due to being vaccinated, that's when things can go back to normal. And
Right now,
and
what is the latest you've heard in terms of how long it'll last? The vaccination, is that unknown? Are we hoping for a year?
that's unknown. So, well, the thing is I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist.
Sure.
I am the lay person here.
Sure.
But from what I understand, theoretically, once you get fully vaccinated, Johnson and Johnson's one shot. Just it's I call that the M&M vaccine because you only
Why is
get
that?
one shot. You only get
Uh,
one shot.
yeah, yeah. Well done, well done. Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
what it does is it has you build your antibodies to it, and so
Okay.
in my mind, once you have the antibodies, you're good.
Is that
So I
only the Johnson and Johnson one builds
no
antibodies,
no
or all
no
three of them? All three of them.
that's all three. That's all three.
Okay. Okay, makes
So
sense. So once the
so
antibodies are up, you definitely have a firewall that's durable.
yeah, and so I don't understand the science on how long the vaccine will last
Yeah,
because
I don't think it's known yet.
in my mind, once you get the antibodies, I mean, you have them. So unless
Right.
you lose all your antibodies, then you should be fine. So but
Right.
like I said,
There could be gradients though, because there are people that have had COVID where you also get the antibodies from being sick that have gotten it again, or they're dealing with like long-term fallout from the illness. So I guess
you
it
want to
just
know
depends. Like there
something?
could be a sliding scale of antibodies.
Want to know something crazy? I think I might be one of those people that you were just mentioning who
Oh,
had
why is
COVID,
that? What
and
happened? Yeah.
so late 2019, I got super sick, and it lasted
Yeah.
like maybe 2 days.
Okay.
Um, but I got really sick, could not get out of bed. I had trouble breathing.
Wow.
I had a crazy headache. I had a crazy fever. Basically, every sign of COVID, every
Right.
symptom. But it was like December or something of 2019. And so that we didn't really know about COVID back then. We knew about it,
Right.
that it was out there,
Yeah.
but it wasn't in the US yet.
Yeah. We
But
weren't on the case. Yeah.
but and so I've actually had a couple COVID scares in this COVID season, and I've been negative. Like I test negative every time.
Wow. But you weren't
Um,
able. Obviously, in that December one, you weren't able to get tested because the testing hadn't started yet.
well, yeah, we didn't even
Yeah.
know what this was, but
Yeah.
there was one instance in particular where I got 3 COVID tests because I was so worried that I had it,
Oh wow.
and by all logical measures, I should have gotten COVID,
Okay.
but I didn't.
Because there was an exposure probability.
Oh, I was like, I was stupidly. This was stupid.
Okay.
I'm gonna get right ahead of it and say I was dumb.
Okay.
I was face to face for like a half an hour with someone who the next day tested positive
Oh, got it. Okay. Yes, your odds are
indoors.
pretty high. Yeah.
Indoors.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
It's
and
interesting because your odds are high, but not as high as one might think. It's like 25%, I think, which is pretty high. Yeah, but the probability is up there, but it's not a slam dunk. Like I've heard stories about people that were in hot tubs with people for 2 hours. Everybody got COVID, but one of them. So it's like, who knows? Yeah.
yeah. And well, hot tubs are actually normally outside, and so
True. True. And then also
I,
you
I
have different elements at work.
yeah, I was indoors with this person. I was wearing a mask. He wasn't.
Okay.
Which is he should have been wearing the mask, and I would have been fine
Right.
because
Right.
he's the one
Yeah.
who
He
had
was
it. Because your
right.
mask doesn't do a whole lot to protect you unless you double mask or wear N95.
Okay.
But what it's meant to do is it's meant to keep your own dirty germs in.
Yeah, it's like right. It's an honor system. It's like we all have to do it for it to be meaningful to the herd.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
you don't know if you have it or not because
yeah,
you can go like a week with carrying the virus, but like not feeling any symptoms.
right. And I also think a lot of 40% of the people that have it, period, never feel symptoms, which means we're like not clear on the viral caseload, and the whole thing gets a little murky at a certain point. So anybody can be
Yeah.
a carrier, especially with children who are anybody like 18 and under who are just by all intents like not in any by all reasonable metrics not in any danger from it, but
Yeah,
still
yeah.
transmitters. Yeah.
Oh yeah, everyone can transmit. Babies can transmit.
Yeah. What about animals like dogs? It stands to, I mean, they have respiratory systems, right?
Yeah, that's I don't know because there have been a few animals that have tested positive for COVID.
Right.
So
Okay. Yeah. Here and
I
there, I've
assume,
heard that. Yeah. Yeah. It
yeah,
only stands to reason. So that's another variable. So we have to have dogs wearing masks.
I
Then we'll
have
get ahead of this thing. Yeah.
I have a friend who her mom made a couple masks for her cat, It is the
Oh, that's
cutest
nice.
thing
Yeah.
ever.
Oh, that's
It's
very
the
cute.
cutest
Yeah.
thing ever.
May as well. Yeah.
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 um,
But then again,
so
I haven't been a pet person since I was a kid. Do dogs get the flu? I don't think. Do they? I don't know.
I don't know, but my cat had a cold one time.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
it's the same. I mean, they're mammals, so it's in the same
Yeah.
range. Yeah.
Yeah. My cat got a cold, and it was the weirdest thing.
That is
It's
weird.
you. It is the weirdest thing to have your cat be mucusy and sneeze all the time,
That is really weird,
and
especially for
low
a cat.
energy.
Yeah, because cats are real dignified, so it's like a fall from grace for a cat.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I worked from home for a couple days because all he wanted to do, and I'm a total cat dad, so it's
Okay.
like I spoil the heck out of him.
Okay.
He gets wet food twice a day.
Oh, that's nice. Living large.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so I actually worked from home for a couple days because all he wanted to do was cuddle up right next to me and sleep.
Oh man. Yeah.
He didn't want to leave my side. The only time he got up was to eat, and he only ate a little bit and go to the bathroom. That was it. Otherwise, he just wanted to sleep curled up right next to me. So I just worked from home, stayed in bed with him for like a couple
Oh,
days.
that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, in the age of COVID where you can't really hang out with friends, and I'm also a single man.
Okay.
My cat is my world.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't blame you. It's a good relationship. There's no judgment. It doesn't get
Oh,
get
there's
complicated.
judgment. There
Oh,
is
yeah.
judgment. My
Oh,
cat
right.
judges
With
the
a
hell out
dog,
of me.
there's no judgment. With a cat, it's like all judgment.
Oh yeah, my cat looks at
Yeah.
me like you stupid idiot every single
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. It's so disappointed in you.
I'm pretty sure my cat wakes up every day, takes one look at me, and goes, "Stupid, stupid man," and then gets
Oh
up
yeah.
and goes.
He has contempt for you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but at the end of the day, he loves me, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess it's fine. I can
They're
take a
loyal
good
creatures.
roasting. I can take a
Right.
good roasting. They're loyal until you die, and
Right.
then
Then they just
they'll
move on. That's it.
no, they wait a couple days and then they start to eat you.
Oh, I see. Okay, so they're not. The
Yeah.
grieving period is not. Yeah, something we can relate to. Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So dogs, they did a study, and dogs will wait about, I think it's like a week before they
Okay.
start eating you.
Oh, okay, so dogs will get there eventually.
Yeah, yeah. Cats will last about a couple days before they start
Oh,
eating you.
there's less hesitation. Yeah. Yeah, I like the guy and everything, but yeah.
It's when I learned that, I was just like, wait, are you serious? What the
Wow,
heck?
that's crazy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
would imagine most people die. I mean, I don't know how many people like die behind closed doors, and it takes a while. And like you would have to be completely like
Elderlies.
alone in the world, like nobody's looking
Elderly,
for you.
yeah. Elderly hermits.
Oh, it's more of a probability there, right? Yeah, because
Yeah,
they're more
you,
atomized.
you know, if you have a grandpa who's really old and you go see him once a week because you're a great child, you could see him, and then literally right after you leave, they could die, and you won't notice it until or either one, until the neighbors complain about a smell,
right,
or
right.
two, you go back the next week or whenever you go back and notice it.
Right, right. And there are just a lot of people. It's interesting, because like you and I are very oriented in our city here and like have all these relationships and different things. And you, despite being single, you have, you live with roommates and you have a family that's local and all these things. Like, but there are a lot of people that just don't have relationships. Like they're not, they don't have social relationships. Maybe it's working relationships. And, if they die, there might not necessarily be anybody looking for them.
Yeah, and it's sad, but I've always thought we should have like a system to kind of a system that you sign up for, or your child signs you up for it, and basically it's a system where they call you like once a day, at the same time every day, and if you don't answer, they send someone out to go make sure you're okay.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Because it's I remember when we lived in LA, my wife and I, in Tarzana in San Fernando Valley, we lived in a gated community of condos. And it was like, I guess there were 260 units. So it was condos and townhouses. And, we knew a lot of the people there and we're friendly with a lot of people. But then there's a lot of people that come and go. And there's people you never really get a sense of, or you never know who's behind that door. And I remember one time an ambulance showed up and they were wheeling a body away. And I said, what happened? And they said the person who I never knew and don't remember ever seeing from that unit had killed himself. And that really was eye-opening because I was like, yeah, it's just amazing. Like somebody that's just like not on my grid, even though I'm living within this community with them, nowhere on my radar, and then that's it. Just and who knows how long it took until the discovery was made. Like you said, in a lot of cases it has to be the scent, and then that's what starts it.
Yeah, and maybe there is a service out there that does that, but I mean,
Yeah.
if you have living children, that service should be your children.
Yeah,
like
you're
my
not
mom,
kidding.
my mom calls her dad like every day, or like at least every other day, talks to him, goes and sees him. During COVID, it was rough because she would still go see him, but she would wait outside. And but my grandpa is vaccinated now, and so
Oh, that's good. How old of
yeah.
a guy is he? He's in his 80s, 70s.
Oh, 90s.
Oh, he's
I
up
think
there. Okay.
I think he's 92.
Wow, where is he?
And this
geographically?
guy still drives himself to the bank, and he's a pro.
Wow,
he's
okay,
not
so
he's not like a terrible
functional.
driver. Yeah,
Right.
dude. Yeah, that dude is my hero, man. Like he is
Nice.
old, but he's an old guy, but he has the attitude of like, so what? I'm old. I'm still like he was in the Korean War.
Yeah.
He's
Nice.
a veteran.
Tough.
So he is tough. That guy is my hero, man. But
Nice.
now that he's vaccinated, I can go back and see him because I still work, and so I'm around people, and so I haven't really gone to see him because I don't want to give him anything. If he got COVID because of me, I'd slit my throat over that. That's
Oh my God, forget it.
figuratively, obviously.
Right.
But, I have to be careful on this podcast, man.
Sorry.
I did a podcast a while ago, and I made some like joke or some.
Okay.
It was like some turn of phrase, and like my DMs were flooded. Then after I posted it, and they're just like, "How could you say that?" Like,
Oh man, yeah,
I think
people take things too literally.
I think I said something like, "Man, I would like blow my brains out if I did that," and people were just
Right,
like,
I talk like that,
why would you
all
say
day
that you
long.
can't?
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever.
Yeah, it's tough because with any content involving suicide, like I wrote a book called The Devoted, which is about a suicide cult. Years ago, it's about the last day in the life of a cult, and it's like their last 24 hours. I did a lot of research, and that was like 2011. I wrote that, and the world has changed so drastically since then. Like when I reissued it recently, I was thinking like, does this need a trigger warning? But I was like, nah, I can't do that. That's ridiculous. Like on the other hand, I mean, it's interesting now with social media, we're so exposed to the miscellany of responses, and there are a lot of people that take things literally and don't understand metaphor or irony. And what are you supposed to do? I mean, like it's a question of how much of a responsibility you have to look out for them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like Disney started to add trigger warnings. They don't call them trigger warnings. They call them hey, we used to be racist warnings.
Right. What was it they did it to recently? It was like in the past couple weeks. I was just reading about today.
So you might have been reading about it today because we're friends on Facebook, and I shared something saying this is a great choice by Disney. They removed it was Peter Pan from the children's section along with a couple other cartoons because of their racist depictions of other characters.
I see. Yeah.
Which has as soon as I posted it, you know my Facebook. As soon as I post anything, it starts a whole war of conservative Republican white people saying complaining that
standing up for the way things were before.
Oh yeah, complaining that the world changes and the world goes on. It's just people who can't accept any sort of change whatsoever.
Well, what's happened now with something like Disney? I think what I was reading about today was Splash Mountain. They're changing the name, and I guess Splash Mountain, as it's been at Disney World and Disneyland at the theme parks, has been like a celebration of the antebellum South, like a nostalgic atmosphere for like slavery. So people did a petition. They said, "Look,
Wow.
nothing against Splash Mountain, but this can't be the story it tells anymore." So they're uprooting all the imagery and everything, and they're turning Splash Mountain into a different sort of journey, which is all well and good. I think what's happening is the reason it seems shocking and shrill to the people you're talking about is because it's become more systematized than it was before, like with petitions and people talking about it online, and then they'll act very swiftly. Corporations, if there's complaints or pushback or progressive correction of the narrative. But the way culture worked before all of that technology was available was pretty much the same. It was just slower. Like eventually, like if you have X amount of movies on cable, like Cinemax is carrying 300 movies in their library for this month. And then as time goes on, they're like, you know what? This one over here has gotten kind of dated. They'll just drop it. That's it. Like somebody behind the scenes will make a decision. It's not public. So it's become a little more transparent. So it seems like shocking. It seems like, oh, we've gone too far and we're going too fast. But it's not true. It's the way things have always gone. Like I was watching, there's a movie from 1992. It's kind of like a semi-cult movie called Brain Donors. It's like comedians in 1992 acting like the Marx Brothers. So it's like a silly comedy. I was watching it 2 nights ago, and it's hilarious. I was laughing a lot. It was just totally light, totally like puns and slapstick, and it was really good. And I had never seen the whole thing. I'd seen part of it as a kid, so I was really enjoying it. But I got to tell you, there were and it's not like I sit there and go like I get scandalized, but a lot of misogynistic humor. I wouldn't say a lot, but it was there. Like there was one elderly woman in the cast that took a lot of jokes at the expense of her appearance, her weight, her gender. So it just wouldn't be done now. It wouldn't be done. It wasn't funny. And then there was also an anorexic joke, which in the early 90s was totally par for the course because nobody understood what that was. They just thought it was people that didn't want to eat. And it was like a snobby thing. Now we understand it's a serious neurotic illness that's like, compulsive, and it's really, a horrible disease. So, not something anybody should joke about. But so I looked at that. I was like, it's amazing. Like, I can enjoy it. I can put it in context. Certain things don't make me laugh, and they just don't work anymore because it's mean-spirited. But culture always progresses. I mean, it's inevitable. It's going to happen one way or the other. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, it's totally funny. I rewatched a bunch of old James Bond movies because
forget it. Sexism.
The full movies are now on YouTube. So I'm just like, oh, cool.
Right.
Like I'll go and watch them. Holy crap, dude!
Yeah, it's mind-blowing.
They are so like, and that type of thing was totally acceptable back then.
Amazing, and totally
it's insane.
Dehumanizing toward women. Amazing, and it's sort of culturally everybody sort of played along that was just the way it went.
Yeah, it's oh man, it is crazy. Go ahead,
sorry.
Oh no, go for it.
No, I was just gonna say Sean Connery himself. Also, it's like, and it's one of those things. I think there's healthy room for ambivalence and dissonance around these sorts of things, because that was a great. I would imagine when you say what you watched James Bond, I would guess that you probably did or possibly did because Connery had died. Is that true? Was it around there or not? That wasn't what got you.
No, I've actually been wanting to go back and watch the old James Bonds recently, just because.
So that was on your list. Okay.
Yeah, just because I really like the new ones with Daniel Craig.
Oh, and those are awesome. Yeah, but so with Connery, the original James Bond dying, I think it was over the summer and the fall or something. He was, by many accounts, a misogynist, reprehensible. He was on Barbara Walters saying, he thinks women deserve a good slap every once in a while. Just completely violent, repugnant language. And at the same time, what I'm saying about dissonance, he was a great movie star of his time. And it is, I can see how, for people that are more, I don't want to use the word regressive, but more traditional, I can see how it's like mind-blowing where all these things get picked apart, because it's like we're literally toppling statues in some cases, but like sort of smashing idols and breaking the illusion, and the whole hierarchy and chain of command has been interrupted. But the truth is, you can't really ignore it. It's unhealthy to ignore it.
Well, where's the line? Because Bill Cosby did a lot of great things for civil rights. Right. But now we know what we know.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it's a good question of the line. It's like, it's amazing if you go to Bill. I haven't gone since he was on trial, but I remember looking at his Facebook, and of course, it's not like a robust, overflowing atmosphere. Of course, the majority of the culture abandoned him because it's overwhelmingly clear he's a violent, ugly, disgusting person. It's amazing to me how many fans were still hanging on. They're like, Bill, we're here for you, Bill. I'm like, what kind of warped reality are they? They just don't care, or they don't believe it. They're neutral. They're not following it. Whatever it is, it's mind blowing. But you're right about the line. The other thing, what's interesting about Cosby and also Weinstein, is their content was phony. It was artificial in the sense, like the Cosby Show was a really big moment for civil rights in its time in the 80s and 90s. But it was also, it was a utopia. It was a falsification. It was colorblind. It would basically send out the message, which has been sort of unplugged culturally, that if you work hard enough, keep your head down, and you sort of act a certain way, if you sort of act white, quote unquote, that's the Cosby Show. You'll succeed. You'll be affluent. He was a doctor. She was a lawyer. Everybody's wearing colorful sweaters. It was a utopia, and it wasn't really. It was propagandistic. I'm not saying that that's not true. I mean, my wife is Black. Her father was a very affluent man, and he was one that didn't like talking about race, and he was, by all intents, like, he was colorblind. He didn't like even perceiving it, and I think that was part of his success, frankly, like, because he didn't opt into that world as a Black guy, and that's his right. So I'm not saying it was a total falsification, but it was a very skewed narrative. Same with Weinstein. All the Miramax movies, like the stuff he was famous for, if you take out Tarantino and Kevin Smith, most of what he was doing was like brownish Oscar bait, like adult cinema, like Shakespearean sort of love stories and dramas and things. And it was, just an artificial sort of sentimentalized, syrupy view of reality. And he's a rapist, So it's like, I just think it's interesting when you go to more extremes with artists that are doing these reprehensible things. Sometimes their whole public image and body of work is a cover for what they're really like. Whereas somebody like Louis C.K., his comedy is consistent with what he's really like. Like, he did things that were really weird and freaky and funky, and not nearly as bad as Cosby and Weinstein, but definitely uncomfortable stuff. But he's still touring and stuff. And if you listen to his comedy, it's not shocking at all that he acted like that. So, it's fascinating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there are some people like Anthony Jeselnik who their comedy that is an act. But it's reverse. Right. It's reverse of what you're talking about, because on stage he is like a terrible person, but it's an act.
Right. That's the whole thing. Yeah, that's the irony of it.
If you watch his podcast he did with I think it was Joe Rogan, he is actually just a very nice, sensible, very smart person. But if you watch his comedy, he makes like dead baby jokes, dead puppy jokes, like murder jokes, like all this stuff, and you're just like, oh, like you have to have a very dark sense of humor to like his comedy. But then you see him in real life, and he's like just a good stand-up guy, and nice. Which is funny because that's the opposite of what you're talking about. But going back to the line. So where's the line? Because people now are trying to cancel Abraham Lincoln.
Right.
So
I mean, that is there is
where's the
line? Like when we started this exchange about Disney. Look, if there's content that is just like denigrating certain groups of people, it would not last the test of time. It would not withstand the test of time organically. So B, the fact that it's now happening in an accelerated, more technologized fashion is par for the course. But that's one thing. But when it goes into history and understanding history and context, that is tricky. Like, it really just depends. Context is everything with this. Like, if there's a statue that's up in a public square that's an honorarium to somebody that was a slave owner and was violent and oppressive, I mean, the argument to remove that and move on from that is sober, insane, and grounded. If it's an honorarium, if it's aggrandizing that person, why not just put it in a museum where the context changes and the context is resolutely about studying and learning, as opposed to like, here's a statue. I mean, the joke I always make whenever I'm like, a friend hooks me up or helps me out or does something nice, I'm like, oh, I'm going to build a statue of you. It's clear that we understand that that's a way of putting somebody, immortalizing somebody and making them mythic. So on the other hand, when it goes to Lincoln, I mean, again, historical context too. I mean, I don't know why or what the reasons or the motives are to cancel him, but in and of his time, I think he was certainly on the progressive curve. So,
yeah, and and personally, that's like, because if there's no line, there's no line, then we can go back in history and cancel every single historical figure who ever lived.
Oh, absolutely.
If there's no line. So that's where, and I'm glad that I don't have to make these kind of choices, but that's where I say, like, where's the line?
I think, frankly, I mean, I don't know, you tell me if I'm overstating this. I think 95% of cancel culture is nonsense. I think, for example, like earlier this year, in the span of a day, we saw two examples. I won't even call them cancel culture because they were very grounded and they were very serious. One was Evan Rachel Wood and I think 4 other accusers called out Marilyn Manson. And the stories that came to light were utterly horrific. And it was really extreme. And there was photographic evidence to back things up of his abuse and things. And just horrifying. And I feel no sympathy for him losing his career, his representation, his record label. And that's like, if the justice system is failing these women, I think they have every right to use social media to call him out and stop him. Believe me, I'm not going to go into it now. I definitely have at least one person in my life. I'm not a proponent of cancel culture. I'm not a canceler, but I do have at least one guy from the past that disturbed me enough and was enough of a bully that I sometimes think, yeah, it'd be nice if somebody got that train started and canceled. You know what I mean? So I can understand the need for retribution. And this guy didn't do anything nearly as bad as Marilyn Manson. The same day, and this wasn't cancel culture at all because there was no name being used, Ocasio-Cortez admitted, it was within the same 24-hour news cycle, in the course of sharing her story from the Capitol of how she was endangered, also said she had been sexually assaulted when young. I mean, all of that is, I think, culturally valuable, enlightening, educational. It should command the compassion and sympathy of any good-hearted person, and it's all valuable to the cultural conversation. Where it becomes toxic is stories like that and situations like that are in the interest of legitimate justice fuel all this other stuff where it's like people, like it's like Karen wokeness or toxic wokeness. People are just micromanaging what you can say, what you can think, what you can what's appropriate to verbalize. So I don't know, that line, wherever you put it, it should be very mindful and responsible. I mean, I think it's like somewhere in the realm of like we're talking easily. Everybody knows that Cosby and Weinstein, that was justice. So I think the line needs to inure somewhere in the direction of legitimate justice if the actual due process systems are failing and there's a preponderance of evidence that something criminal and violent occurred. Beyond that, I think it's very ripe for abuse, and it just gets abused all day long. People just getting canceled for any reason.
Yeah, do you remember Aziz Ansari's cancel culture case?
Yeah, he had a bad date.
Yeah, he had an awkward date.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, even what happened with Louis C.K. was too far.
I agree too. Because, it's
that's a very
a little borderline. Sorry to interrupt. There's a little borderline to admit it, but I think in that particular case, what's very important about the C.K. case is everybody consented. The only one that didn't was the woman he asked if he could do his fetish in front of. And she said no, and he didn't bother her any further. I mean, that's all in the course of, it might be whatever he liked might have been weird, and it might have been awkward, it might have been selfish, but I agree.
Yeah, Dave Chappelle went into this, and he said it best. I'm not even going to go back and repeat what he says, because I feel like if me as a white person goes into this, I'm going to get canceled. I'm going to get canceled.
Right.
And as we've discussed before, I'm only half white.
I know. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
People don't really know that though. So, and that's like, so that's where I've been struggling with cancel culture, because what you said, I don't know if I agree with you when I say when you said 95% is nonsense.
Okay.
I don't know if I agree with that. Men are terrible. Okay. Men are terrible, and
it is. Go ahead.
Well, it's been socially okay for them to be terrible for so long, and
True.
It like people are getting upset because I heard this story where men were trying to say like, oh man, the females at my work, they miss getting compliments now because everyone's so scared to flirt with them at work, and I'm just like, you go to work to get compliments? For one, you, a white male who's telling me this story about your female coworker, I'm pretty sure you're either making this up or you took it completely out of context.
Right.
But also, you go to work to get compliments? Like, go to work to work. Like,
right.
Go to work to get paid. Like, don't. But, that being said, I highly doubt what that person told me was accurate. But they're just like, oh yeah, my female coworkers, like they say they miss the attention now, and I'm just like, I doubt it.
It's a fascinating thing with the workplace. It's fascinating because women have only been there since the 60s. I mean, it was as of birth control, and it became, and then the numbers have continued to increase since then. And it's so interesting how decades later there still is an ongoing adjustment. And I know a lot of it. What's really interesting is I'm a guy, and my wife loved this when she, we've been together for 24 years. When she first knew this in the first few months we were together, she was so relieved. I don't like makeup. So it's good. It took a lot of pressure off her. She's like, oh, okay. She likes wearing it because she likes it and it's fun and it makes her look good. But
But
also,
she doesn't need
I
to.
love. Well, oh, thank you. And yeah, and she also there's
I was. Wait, let me make it clear. When
please.
you say you don't like makeup, she likes wearing it. But she doesn't need to wear it because she doesn't, feel like you like want her to wear it. That's what I meant.
Right. Oh, you got it. I know what you mean. I know
But
what you
you know,
mean.
she doesn't even. She's a gorgeous woman too. But
Yeah, oh, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Either way, on either part of that accent,
about to get
it's all good.
canceled.
I know what you mean. Though. I know what you mean. It's like she doesn't. She's a gorgeous woman. A and B, like the pressure was alleviated. She didn't. Yeah, and then I just love the way I love the way women look without makeup. That's just a preference. And what's interesting about makeup, if you think about what it is, you can start bugging out. It's pretty fascinating. They're painting their faces to look more attractive. So, and I'm not mounting, it's none of my business. I'm not a woman. I'm not mounting any sort of protest or political statement about it. I'm just remarking on the fact that that is the function and origin of it, to quote unquote doll themselves up. I'm using heavy quote, you know what I mean? So that's interesting.
How dare you? That's insensitive.
It's outrageous. Yeah. So women in the workplace, the entire thing, the entire nature of the encounter is fascinating because of these things, like showing up wearing makeup. And people are sexual creatures. People flirt, and people, when bodies are in spaces, particularly in the arts, creative. When you're doing creative stuff, whenever I've been involved in a play or a movie, it's not uncommon for there to be flirtation or people hooking up or whatever. It's completely normal, and a lot of people get into the arts and sign up for acting classes or whatever because they're looking for that. That's it. So many famous actors, like Liam Neeson, who's one of the best actors of his generation, he said he got into it to meet girls. I mean, that doesn't make him some bastard, So it is amazing. It's amazing. So flirting is fun. It's a life energy. It's joyful. What's really amazing about like what your friend said is most people, and I'm just not even talking about flirting. I'm talking about any kind of social interaction, if I may. I think I don't want to say most people like a jerk, but so many people are just inept in general. Like they don't know how to navigate encounters in a way that's fluid, or to ask questions, or to be curious, or to be supportive or warm. So much of that is obstructed and distressed anyway with humanity. So it's like, in a way, for him to mount that sort of complaint and say they miss getting compliments, it's like, wait, hold on a second, buddy. Like, how desirable are you? How good was that atmosphere before the compliments stopped? Like, what were you really providing? It's like, it becomes ridiculous.
So going back to the Disney thing, what do you think about that? So what Disney did is some of their more older racist cartoons, they didn't remove them from the streaming platform, but they did take them off the children's profile. So I love that. I think that is an amazing move, solely because it's if they're admitting that it's racist but they're keeping it on the streaming platform, that's their choice to do that or not. But they're taking it off the children's platform because a lot of the time the children's profiles, parents turn that on and they let the children pick what they want to watch. And I think there could be some real value to watching a show like that with your parents and them saying, hey, I just want to let you know that this was made in a time where something like this was okay. This is why it's not okay anymore. And explaining it. That could actually have real value for the children. Explaining racism at an early age and saying like, hey, we can't depict people like this because everyone is equal. Where everyone's equal. But when it's on a children's profile, they end up watching it with no one to explain it. And so now, all of a sudden, let's take Peter Pan, for example. Now, they see a Native American depicted with literal red skin, like the most stereotypical Native American you can possibly imagine, in an offensive stereotype, nonetheless. And they watch that at a young, impressionable age and think that's normal. So there's a lot of people who, like, even my own friends who were saying like, how could they do this? Or like, this is wrong. You know, we need to keep this up. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I 100% disagree with you. This is an amazing choice because now, if you want to watch this with your kids, then it's up to you to like explain it to them. But now your kids aren't going to see it without you around, and they're not going to think that something like that is normal. You know, nothing against Peter Pan. You know, it's a classic old cartoon. I think Peter Pan won't be canceled anytime soon. But now kids aren't going to be watching that by themselves and think like, oh, like this is normal. You know, there's plenty of old cartoons that are totally racist and kids should not watch on their own because they're going to think like stuff like that's normal. I watch those cartoons myself on my own. And and here's an example of how dangerous it can be for someone who's young to watch something like that by themselves. Have you ever seen the movie Undercover Brother?
I know of it, but I've never seen it.
So basically, it's a movie. Have you seen The Chappelle Show?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a movie that has that same type of comedy. It's not sketch comedy, but that same type of making fun of racism comedy.
Like parody.
Yeah, exactly. So I watched that in middle school by myself. I thought it was hilarious. I seriously thought it was hilarious. And there's a scene, I'm not going to go into it because I'm not going to say it, but I'm not going to say the lines. But there is a scene in particular that is just so funny. And I, not knowingly, went to school the next day. And I said the lines very proudly.
Yeah.
And my friend, who was next to me at the time, she was black. She did not find it funny. In fact, she found it extremely unfunny. And she went and she told the vice principal on me. She went straight to the vice principal and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that Timothy Alcorn said this right in front of me.
Wow.
Did not try to hide it, proudly said it." So I got called in. I did not get in trouble. I got educated. So they said, "Hey, why did you say this?" And I'm like, "I watched a movie yesterday and it was funny, and I just said the line because I thought it was funny. I wanted my friends to laugh too." And they're just like, "Okay, I understand, but you have to understand that what you said was extremely hurtful to a large group of people, and this is why." And they explained to me why certain words are offensive, why certain phrases are offensive, why the way you talk can be offensive. And his name was Mr. Baxter. He's passed on. Great guy, amazing vice principal at Rancho Middle School.
Okay.
But I was educated because I had no idea that what I said was offensive or hurtful or anything. I just thought it was funny because I always grew up, shout out to my parents, I always grew up knowing everyone is equal. Certain jokes my parents would make maybe would make fun of stereotypes or racism, or back then racist jokes were more accepted and they were pretty funny. And so jokes maybe, but at the root of everything, I was always taught through church and my parents that everyone is equal. And I always read the Bible and where it said everyone's made it in God's image, and I'm just like, everyone's made in God's image. That means everyone is equal. And so I always knew that, but I didn't understand the concept of racism because in my mind, I'm like, you're no different than me. So how would that joke offend you but not me? And it would be like my friend who's black. But in my mind, there's no difference between us. So I was just like, I didn't understand how that joke could offend them and not me. But after I was called up to the office and they explained it, then I knew. Okay, so the whole reason for that long story...
Sure.
Watch, people are going to cancel me now. Oh, he said something racist in middle school. Let's get him.
That's enough. We don't know what it was, but we got to do something.
I will not say it again. I have not said it since. But the reason why I brought up the story is because something like these old, very racist cartoons, if you
Mhm.
watch them with your parents and they explain to you how those things are wrong, it could make you socially aware. And it could make you
Right.
aware of how certain things could very well offend certain people in a way that you might not understand. But taking it off the children's platform to where they can't watch it by themselves and run into the same or similar problem that I ran into,
Right.
I think is a fantastic idea. And
Yeah.
I'm
No,
I'm
I
clipping this and I'm
agree.
posting it. I'm gonna literally clip this part and post it in the comments of the article that I shared, explaining in a long form of why I think what I think, and hopefully people will understand. Because I have a lot of friends who were really pissed off by that move.
Oh wow. Well, it's interesting in a way. I think it's the ideal move. A lot of times corporations punt and they split the difference and they try and please everyone, and it's ghastly. But that's the perfect move. An imperfect move would be taking it down. I know this is what happened with Gone with the Wind was taken down from HBO Max, and I remember I posted on Facebook. You look, it's loud and clear. If you really want to watch Gone with the Wind, which let's face it, whether it's Gone with the Wind or Peter Pan, first and foremost, very few people are watching them at the moment. Like that's number one. What's really interesting is in the shrillness of our culture, when these moves are made, it gets amplified. They're like, you can't do that to Peter Pan. But it's like, bro, were you thinking about or worrying about Peter Pan 24 hours ago? No. You probably had no plans to ever watch it again in your life. Same with Gone with the Wind. I mean, Gone with the Wind, I think is, I've always felt, I'm not making a political or racial statement. I've always felt it was overrated. Maybe it's just because it's dated. But they took it down. There's still umpteen places you can find it if you really want to see it. And with what Disney did, that's perfect. It's perfect for all the reasons you said, number one. And number two, to just delete it, then you have the censorship problem. And then it's the First Amendment freedom of speech problem. Then you're erasing. And
Is
that
that a
fosters
First Amendment?
ignorance.
Is
Well,
that a First Amendment thing?
it's
If
not a
like,
First Amendment issue. It's not like a legislative or it's not a legal issue unto itself, but it's just the freedom of speech question. Like the people that made Undercover Brother, they're allowed to make a movie and make outrageous jokes and put it in the marketplace and see how they fare. And it might work against them, it might work for them, it might do a little bit of both, which is a good way of promoting also. So freedom of speech is a good thing. So it becomes that question, which the right has seized that argument of like, hey, if you deplatform, if you cancel, if you censor, put steel over people's mouths, then it's like you're obstructing their freedom of speech, which shy of inciting violence, which ironically their Lord and Savior did in January. Shy of inciting violence, they should there should be ultimate freedom of speech, which is all well and good. But I like the way you put that, because it goes back in a way, it goes back to what I was saying before about context, whether it's on the in the adult section or the children's section. And it's interesting, the story you shared is very context oriented too, because you're a kid at home by yourself watching a movie. It is funny. You're allowed to laugh at it. There's nothing unhealthy about laughing about at offensive or outrageous things. Like you were saying, that one comedian jokes about murder. Like, it's all in context. It's all on the axis of like, it's a joke. So that's all well and good, and that is healthy. On the other hand, when the context switched and you were in school and you were with a friend, and she may have been a friend, it might have been a close friend or not, or an acquaintance or not, then it doesn't withstand, because the context was drastically shifted and you had to be educated, and that's all fair and healthy too. But I think the key aspect of Disney's move is that they kept it in play. Like they're not like saying we need to erase or eliminate Peter Pan from the face of the earth. On the other hand, they're saying let's recontextualize it, because those images are hurtful, and it's tough to understand. It really is tough to get under the skin, all puns intended, of how that hurt can be if you're not in the community that's being hurt. Like obviously being Jewish, if there's imagery, whether it's cartoons or even like what's the one is Shakespeare, The Merchant of Venice, is very anti-Semitic, and it's when I see that sort of imagery, the Shylock and the big nose and the hair, it's like, it makes me, it makes my blood curdle. I'm like, I feel like, like my humanity is being lessened. And you also, what you didn't verbalize again, even though you said it before in sharing your story, you said everybody's equal. So, since I laugh at it, and I see you as the same as me, the joke should be shared the same, and that sort of logic. You're also biracial. So you're a living example of two cultures blending. So, and that's part of how humanity works. I mean, so, so that's all well and good. And that I don't even look at that as, this is where the argument gets so toxic. I don't even look at what they did as even a branch or a division or an aspect of cancel culture. It's just like, it's just the way culture is going. I mean, you can't, I mean, if the objective of Peter Pan is to cause wonderment and delight and entertainment and laughter and joy, yet there's iconography, imagery, and ideas in it that are polluted and are denigrating to people, then something around how it's presented could stand to be shifted, and that's not a big deal. And that happens all the time. That happens all the time with books, with movies, and things change.
Well, yeah, I mean, things change all the time, but I don't know why people are so. For instance, seatbelts. Let's say seatbelts. Cars were made without seatbelts.
Right. They came around in the 1970s, right?
Yeah, and the car companies fought that tooth and nail for years.
Oh wow!
To try and keep seatbelts from being mandatory. But I don't remember any stories of people saying, "Oh, wait, you're gonna take out seatbelts? What are you gonna take out next? The gas pedal?" Like, no one said that.
Right.
And now that it has to do with offending people being basically, extremely offensive, terrible, the stereotypes and all that. Now people are just like, "Oh, wait, what are you gonna do next?" Like this and that. Like, why? Society changes. You're not talking on a phone where you have to dial it by going tick, 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 tick. Society changes.
Right, it absolutely does. Like a really good example for what you're articulating is Star Wars, and how Star Wars has like the most toxic fandom of any really popular intellectual property out there. And they really went into revolt when speaking of Disney took over that property, made it progressive with Daisy Ridley, female protagonist, a Black lead protagonist, a Hispanic lead protagonist, especially The Last Jedi was an ultra woke in all the positive ways movie with a clear LGBTQ plus character in a lead role, and just totally just on that side of things. And I think what happens, I'm not dignifying or validating it, I think it's stupid, but certain people like the ones we're talking about feel personally attacked. Like, it's not Luke Skywalker. It's not the straight white protagonist. They feel they're being erased, which is crazy.
Just to be clear, you're saying that the people getting feeling attacked is stupid, not the Disney making it progressive is stupid.
Correct,
right?
110%.
Okay.
Yeah, the people feel. Okay. Yeah, thank you. The people feeling attacked. It's a foolish reaction. It's foolish to feel attacked because look, even to this day, and the cultural conversation has been very heavily centered on these sort of progressive values we've been talking about for about. When I say heavily, I mean it's like front and center on podcasts, in news stories, just the slant of things since Obama's lame duck session around 2014. That's where things have gone. So we're in our 7th year of getting used to these things. Now, most movies, I think it's like 94%. I don't think the number has shifted meaningfully. Most motion pictures are directed by straight white men, like the overwhelming majority. That would be horrific if it was 50%. It would be unfair. It wouldn't be demonstrative of what society is like, with all the women and minorities and other people that want to direct movies and make stories. 94% straight white male. So it's amazing that the straight white male, I'm one of them, gets butthurt when there's not a straight white male hero in Star Wars. They feel like something's being taken from them. It's like, whoa, hold on. Like, women seldom get a chance to be represented. The women, of course, being a majority. There's more of them than there are of men. They seldom get a chance to have that sort of hero representation in a hero story of fantasy and mythology, and it's wonderful to do it. And you're speaking of children, it's so positive to put in front of children. Like, I just watched the 3 new Star Wars with my sons, and it's fantastic. It's a really comforting feeling to see them watching a girl hero and knowing that that's completely normal. It doesn't even cross their minds that it wouldn't be, and that's very good.
I really like episode 7 and 9. Episode 8, The Last Jedi, is a bad movie. It's a bad movie.
It's interesting. I gotta tell you, and we can go back and forth. I hated it when I saw it in the theater. Nothing to do with where its head was at politically. I didn't like it in the theater, but when I saw it again with my kids, and it wasn't even watching it with them, because one of them liked it and the other didn't. But it was better once I knew what I was in for. Like, the story is kind of lumpy and strange. It's odd. Like, it breaks the tone of all the other ones. It's in its own headspace. Once I knew what I was getting into, I appreciated it a lot more. So it grew on me the second time. Yeah.
I've watched it multiple times, and it's a bad movie.
Okay.
It is a bad movie.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is I am one of I'm probably one of those. Okay, no, I'm not one of the toxic ones because I like the trilogy as a whole. I think it's very good. It is not your traditional Star Wars. But guess what? Society changes. But no, Episode 8, The Last Jedi, is a bad movie. So their little spin-off to the rich part of town accomplishes nothing. They shoehorned Rose in as a character.
Now you're really touching the volatile flames right there. No, not with me. I'm just saying because of all that. You know what happened with that actress, and she got off social media. She was being trolled, and yeah.
Okay, no. I have no problem with the actress. Her character was the way it was written was just shoehorned in. And I personally I like her role. I like that little thing that Finn and Rose had. Like it was different, you know. It was cool. I liked it. But her character, the way it was written, Rian Johnson just butchered it. That's the problem. Rian Johnson butchered the movie. So the last big lightsaber fight, not the one with Ghost Luke, the one where it's Kylo Ren and Rey, and they're fighting the red soldiers.
Oh yeah, which is
no, it's freaking horrible.
Oh my god, yeah.
The choreography is terrible.
Oh my god, yeah. I don't know what to say. Yeah, we could be here all night. I'm not going to mount a fervent defense of it. What's interesting about me with tentpole spectacle movies is I don't take them that seriously. So I don't get that. I don't get so. And I'm not saying you do, but I never get so into it that I feel the need to defend or whatnot. Like if you didn't enjoy it, that's all well and good. But I thought that
no. We're going to talk. We're going to talk about this right now. We're going to break this down.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are you know, I'm not going to screen share it because it'll get copyrighted and everything. But there are multiple times. Look it up. There are multiple times when the soldiers make moves with their weapons that make no sense. So they'll have like their sword and they'll swing it at air.
Yeah.
And then after they swing it at air, they'll just fall down. Like nothing hit them. Nothing hit them. They weren't aiming at anything.
Right.
And then they fall down. So there's like another example.
Sloppy.
Yeah, there's another example where this guy has two different, one in each hand, and he's fighting. I think it's Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren takes a lightsaber and they lock, you know, with one hand. But he has this other hand that could totally just like boop boop, but instead he does like some like crazy thing, and then like Kylo Ren's like wide open and he just doesn't do anything. Like the choreography in that is awful. That being said,
you didn't think it was cool. You didn't think it was cool when the bad guy got cut in half on the throne?
That was a cop out. That was a total cop out. Snoke could have been a cool character, but Rian Johnson hated J.J. Abrams so much that he wanted to undo everything J.J. Abrams did. He made it to
the last word,
which is great, good.
Yeah.
He should have had the only word. So
he did Abrams did a. I will tell you this. I'll lie to you on this. Abrams really did a great job with the material. It was much more. I feel now people that prefer something more art house and funky and strange, and I even got to say punk, and I like punk stuff. They're going to go for The Last Jedi because it's an oddball one. It's odd. It doesn't fit with the tone of any of the other ones in the Cannon Spine series. But JJ brought like suspense, laughter, thrills, fast pace, giddiness. It was like what you want from Star Wars. But even a lot of people hate on JJ's. Also, you can't please Star Wars fandom. It's over. Unless I guess it's the Mandalorians the only way you can please them.
People call him Jar Jar Abrams.
Oh, terrible. Not fair. 7 and 9 are very solid. I think all three of them are good. Like you said, it's not even a functional trilogy. It doesn't. It's lopsided. Like they didn't have any plan. And Finn, is that his name? He doesn't like. There was a plan for him to be developed, and it went nowhere, which was awful. Yep. So there was a lot of stuff like that where it got off to a promising start and went nowhere.
And the episode 9, episode 9.
Yeah.
J.J. Abrams made the first dark Star Wars movie. It was dark.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing. Yeah.
And I loved it. It was great. It was phenomenal.
That's actually,
that movie,
Episode 9 is my second favorite after Empire. I flipped over Episode 9. Yeah.
So it was rushed. It was very rushed. It's a very rushed movie.
Okay.
The opening screen comes up, and all of a sudden you're just like, whoa, wait, what's happening? Oh,
You're
Palpatine's back. Oh my gosh,
yeah.
we just went straight in. You like went straight into the biggest surprise of the whole movie. Like you just went. There's no build up. There's no. But it was rushed. I would love to see Episode 9, but like 5 hours long. Personally,
that's crazy. You said that.
That would have been
my
amazing.
best friends, my friend Ian, who I'm working on a graphic novel with, he said the exact same thing. He felt like and there is in Episode 9. There's a lot of dialogue on the fly and people running and information. I've seen it twice. I saw it once in the theater and once with my. It's a very speedy movie, and it doesn't breathe. It doesn't breathe.
Yeah,
I love Episode 9. I love 7 and 9, but I came around at 8, which I despised in the theater. Yeah.
I still despise it. Okay, but hold on. Credit for 8. Credit where credit is due. The fight scene between Kylo Ren and Luke is a cinematic masterpiece.
Oh, nice. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It is.
Rian Johnson is really good. Yeah, I can't say I've always liked where he's gone. Like I love Looper. I wasn't the biggest fan of Brick, but he is good. He's interesting. Like I'm all for him.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm definitely not all for him. I think he should be barred from Star Wars.
Star Wars.
See, now I'm getting.
Is he still doing
apparently,
another trilogy or something?
Apparently, his project is still in the works, which I'm not for it. But
you're not
okay. I'm starting to get a little toxic fandom now.
Oh man, you get passionate about it. It's amazing because not to pull the age difference, because I grew up in the original trilogy. And by all right, I mean, I saw them in the theater, except for the first one. I was born in 1978. But I saw Empire and Jedi in the theater. And by all rights, I should be the angriest person. Like, I should be like out of my mind with anger over what's happening, because it's been very inconsistent, very jumbled, a lot of like band-aiding and Frankenstein monster stuff, trying to hold it together. It's a very distressed property. But, it's Star Wars. I mean, it's like
well,
it's just fun.
I grew up on Star Wars. I actually grew up on the original trilogy. There was a time when I was very young. I went to stay with my grandma, and there's not a whole lot for me to do. So I watched Episode 4 on repeat for a week straight, all day, every day, for a week straight. As soon as it was over, I started it over again.
Amazing.
And so then I was growing up as 1, 2, and 3 were coming out. And then, but I also got a lot of Star Wars books, which are very different.
You're real into it. Those are pretty awesome.
And video games too. And so I am totally open and okay with changing the structure, the plot, everything about Star Wars. Basically a whole different movie, but keeping it in the same universe. I'm totally okay with that. That's great. I love it.
Yeah. Okay.
The reason why I hate Episode 8 is because, from a filmmaker's perspective, it is a terrible movie. It's really bad.
I'll give you this much. I'm a huge storytelling junkie. The storytelling is a disaster in number 8. Like, he's totally coasting on his 100%. Images, his use of color. There's actually no story. It's actually a muddle. Like one thing doesn't really connect to the next, and nothing's like. Whereas J.J. Abrams is a total professional. Like he'll like wire together a suspenseful story that really hooks you and takes you along.
So here, what's interesting is, it takes to pull off what they were trying to pull off. It takes someone who's really good. Let me give you an example. So there is you don't think of storytelling genius when you think of Family Guy. That's not what you think of.
Probably not.
But there's an episode.
Seth MacFarlane, though. Yeah.
Oh, amazing, totally smart, great person. So there's an episode of Family Guy where they made a whole episode with just 2 characters in one location. It was the vault of a safe, or it was the vault of a bank. So it was Brian and Stewie went to the bank, and Brian was going to his safety deposit box, and the whole episode took place inside of that vault. There were no cutaways. There were no flashbacks or anything, and it was just those two characters. So the whole purpose was that with that is they wanted to make an episode that was kind of like a play, where it was like one location, nice. Two characters, and they just really wanted cool. to see. They wanted to see if they could do it. Yeah, they wanted to see if they could do it. And I think it was awesome, and I think they pulled it off. So, roping that into episode 8, if you notice, the whole movie takes place in like a day, and it's all about there's one issue, and it is they're the ships, and they're being tracked, and they need to jump to hyperspace, but they don't have enough fuel. First off, where did fuel come from? Star Wars has never talked about fuel, and if you want to introduce that, I'm game, but be consistent. If you want to introduce the whole fuel, like I would have taken like maybe battery cells or something, but fuel, right. No one's ever talked about fuel before.
Very specific.
Yeah. Well, so anyways, if they could have made the whole movie and rocked it. With just that one location, that area in space, with just those characters lasting a day, I think they actually could have pulled off something incredible. But
yeah, that would be cool. Just a total pressure cooker.
Yeah, but then Rian Johnson did not have the guts to do it, and he had to put a side quest in there that ended up being 100% useless. Because if you notice, the goal, they're trying to find the master code breaker when they went to that city, that they could do this whole elaborate thing to I think it was break in or enter the main ship and like disable the tracker so that they could jump to light space because they only had enough fuel for one jump. So they could jump to light space without being tracked. So that was the whole point of their side quest. So they ended up going onto the ship, down to the city to get a code breaker. They couldn't find him. And then they got this guy from jail instead, and then the guy from jail ended up turning him in, and then the whole thing was useless. So it amounted to nothing. So it's like, why did you just... It's like he just wanted to pad the runtime with some BS that didn't mean anything.
Very much so. It wasn't organic, yeah.
So anyway, so that is why I don't like episode 8. Going way back to what you were saying, I thought Daisy Ridley was awesome. I thought she was a great lead.
I agree. I appreciated her more when I watched them all. When I watched them all back to back, like 3 nights in a row, I was like, yeah, she really is pretty terrific. It's a great character too.
And Finn, FN2187, Finn, and Poe. Oh my gosh, their dynamic is awesome. There's one part. Oh man, what movie was this? This might have been in 8. It was either in 8 or 9. But Rey's training. It was 8, I think. So Rey's training and okay. So Rey's training and Finn and Poe come back from a mission to get intel, and the Millennium Falcon is like on fire, and so they land, and Rey and Poe get into it because she's like, you destroyed the Millennium Falcon. He's like, look at BB-8. He's like, he got crushed. Like, what happened? And then they walk away, and then Rey goes up to Finn and goes, is he in a bad mood? And Finn's like, Poe, always. It's hilarious.
Also very, I've never appreciated that. Also very succinct. Like, it defines him that's episode 9, right? I think it's at the beginning of 9.
Okay, yeah, I think you're right. Oh, yeah. You're right.
Because they tightened everything up. I think also there was damage control in the sense in 9 that like Poe never got developed. He was sort of an afterthought.
Sadly,
by the time 9 came around, they're like, all right, let's make him cranky. Let's like give him something. Yeah.
And Poe is such an awesome character. He's a
badass. Yeah.
He's known as like this amazing pilot. Like they make a point to say like, holy crap, he's a great pilot. But also, I wish there's like a Poe and Finn spinoff, like either a show or whatever, because their dynamic was just awesome.
Dynamic, yeah.
Yeah,
it's good. Yeah, I feel like they're just scratching the surface with those two.
Do you remember in episode 7 where Poe was just like, "Why are you breaking me out?" And Finn's like, "Because it's the right thing to do." And Poe's just like,
Yeah.
you need a pilot. He goes, I need a pilot. And they're like, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Like, dude, they
Good,
click so
good.
well.
Very good.
Thanks, J.J. Abrams, for making a great Star Wars film.
I agree.
A couple of
I
them.
think he did a great job. I'm glad we agree because so many people. I didn't know the Jar Jar thing, but so many people despise J.J. Abrams around it. It's like, what are you looking for? Like, he made them very fun, very fast, like charming. What do you need? Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, you're not going to please everyone with that. Star Wars, it's interesting that you brought this up because that is probably like the most toxic fandom that's out there is the Star Wars fandom.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Yeah, there should be a book written about it. It's they really are, like, it exposes so much animosity in the culture wars, just how they reacted to it being upgraded. And when you think about Star Wars, it's actually pretty, because I didn't watch the prequels, but I watched the other 6. And my kids and I still have to watch Solo and Rogue One. But they're pretty simple. It's pretty simple mythology. Like, there's a lot of, like you're saying, with things like the fuel and the technology, like there's interstitial dynamics at play and there's details, and it's a very rich and steeped world. But in terms of the mythology and the message with the Force and the values, it's very, very simple. So it's like amazing that it could drive people so crazy.
Yeah. And also another funny thing is episode 7 is like just a modern version of episode 4.
Right, it is, but it's you know what, they were trying to recover the whole Enterprise, not to make a Star Trek reference, but from the prequels, because the prequels were such a letdown. So he just was like, he was getting back into form. But I think also 7.
I like the prequels.
7. Oh, the prequels are terrible, and they also.
I like them.
Oh, you like them? Did you say you like them?
I love them. I think
really?
They're great.
Wow!
Yeah.
Wow!
Yeah, I think they're
amazing.
great.
The big deficiency for me with the prequels is there's no Han Solo character. There's no human. Like, it's very much a Jedi story. I thought, Rhoda really likes the third one.
Third one's great.
Is it Return of the Sith? Is that what it? Yeah.
Yeah. So Revenge of the Sith. So the first one is real. Like in the sense of they're talking politics. They're talking taxation of trade routes.
Right.
It's just such an interesting concept that just threw a lot of people
logistics,
off. But then they gave Jar Jar Binks a spot, and that he's awful and racist, by the way.
Terrible! Yeah, I mean, right out the gate, it didn't even take like time to go by before people realized that was racist.
Yeah. The second one was cringy. It was cringy.
Really? The second one has Yoda with the lightsaber, which is a showstopper. That's like it's amazing there for like 90 seconds. So that makes the whole thing worth it. I think the second one gets solid in its second half. Like, it becomes very action-packed. I've got to say, though, I find them, and it could be the settings on my television, which I think are okay. When they're on, the prequels, I find them hard to look at because it's in that beta mode. They're so digital looking. It's like,
looks
what
like
did they do?
PS2 graphics.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it was the budget like $175. Like, they really look bad. Like, so, and on that level, it's hard for me to do them. Yeah.
And I understand that VFX are hard. As you know, I've done some VFX work.
Yeah. You got the toys ready to go.
Yes, but it's kind of like they said, hey, we have this new technology. Let's use it for everything.
Oh my God, they were just painting everything with the same brush. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just wasn't kind of quite there yet. But you know what? They fixed it on episode 3, so episode 1 is real. Episode 2, cringy, but
not with episode 2.
But it's plot development. That is plot development. Episode 3 is the coolest Star Wars film ever made.
Oh my God, I'm glad you like it. Rhoda's a big fan. It's funny because Rhoda's a big student of screenwriting, like storytelling. And when we first got together, she's the person that got me into all these things, like classical narrative structure. And I guess it's the British playwright Tom Stoppard was like ghostwriter on episode 3. Like, he helped Lucas write that one, but he didn't want credit, which blows my mind. Like, even if he's this rarefied, elegant British playwright, I can't imagine passing on credit for Star Wars, but he just was too elegant for that, I suppose. But he helped him really wire that plot together. But my problem with episode 3 is, to me, it's very tight. It's very efficient. but it is just like a checklist of traits that led to the birth of Vader. And it's just like, it felt like watching it makes me feel like I'm getting a task done. Like I'm sort of like, all right, then he gains the helmet, and he's like, you fall from grace. And so, okay, now he's Vader. Okay, it's like we're done. So I can't get with 3, but Rhoda would.
You know, I disagree.
Okay.
Because if you're not paying attention, then when he chops off Mace Windu's hand,
right,
you're just like, why would he do that? Why?
Right. So evil.
Like, you are so close to gaining the trust of the person who has been against you this entire time, and all of a sudden you chop his hand off. Why? So you go back to episode 2, episode 1, and you rewatch them, and you see all these little things that the Jedi do to basically destroy him. And a lovable character like Obi-Wan, you realize it's his fault.
Right.
So you go back and you're just like, okay, for one, they took him from his mom at a older age, so he was very impressionable. Like they should have taken his mom with them. Honestly, they made an exception for his age. They should have taken his mom with them because how when you're let's say he was maybe like 9 years old, 10 years old when they got him. How are you supposed to rip a 10-year-old from their mom and have them just never worry about her again? Like that's impossible.
Right.
So
the
first off, they do that, and then they're just like, "Oh, hey, we're not going to train you because you're too old." And he's like, "What did I just like leave my mom for?" And then they end up like, "Okay, never mind, we will train you." And then they're just like, "Well, okay." So already bad impressions from the Jedi. They seem to flip flop. So you never know where their loyalty is going to lie because they've already flip flopped. Like the first choice they made with you, they flip flopped. So you're just like, okay, well, now I don't know if I can trust you. Like, what happens if you just turn against me one day?
Right. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And then you get into the second episode where they're like, no, hey, don't think about your feelings. Like, you can't. Stop having feelings.
Right.
And, you know, when it comes to his mom, when it comes to Padme and everything, like, you're just like, no, stop having feelings. And then he's like on his own, and he's like, he doesn't know how to act, so he like makes Padme like super uncomfortable because he's never been allowed to express feelings before, and all of a sudden he's alone, and he feels comfortable, and he feels like he can, and then like there's actually a line in episode 2 where she's like, hey, don't look at me like that, and he's like, why? And she's like, because it makes me uncomfortable. And
I remember
and
that.
that's because he's never been allowed to express feelings before. And then also in episode 2, there's some other little things here and there. And then episode 3, it starts to really highlight that the Jedi they're out of touch. They're toxic. Like it's actually just a really bad whole organization there. And the person who's been a friend to him this whole time, which is Palpatine, like accepts him for who he is. Like the Jedi are just like, hey, you can't have feelings. If you have feelings, then that means you're not a real Jedi. Like it means you're weak. And Palpatine's over here just like, dude, everyone has feelings. Like let yourself feel them. You're human. It's okay.
Right.
And then all like he's forbidden from love, so he can't say that him and Padme are married.
Right.
But then he's been having nightmares that she's gonna die, and so he's already lost his mom. Okay, he's already lost his mom, and now he's about to lose the only other female that he loves. And I don't know if you've ever been in this position, or anyone watching has ever been in this position, but like, if you can do something to keep the person you love from dying, you're gonna do it. But they make him suppress that, and then he finds out that there's a way you can use the Force to prevent it, and he's just like I can stop having nightmares. I can let go of this anxiety. Like if she dies, I can save her, and then like Obi-Wan is always making him suppress his feelings and suppress and all that. And then this person comes along who's just like, no, like, be human. It's okay. And then all of a sudden now, turns out that person's evil. He does the right thing. He turns him in. And then Mace Windu, he catches him about to kill him, which is breaking the Jedi code. I will remind you that murder is against the Jedi code.
Oh, right.
So, which made it to where they should have not have been war generals, which they were, because they can't kill. But Anakin's over here just like, look, I have been living my whole life suppressing feelings, feeling inhuman, like worried that the person I love is going to die because I can't break the Jedi code. And here you are about to break it just because you would feel safer if this guy was dead. Like, how is this fair? Like, you have drilled the Jedi code into me my whole life, and I have been suffering and unhappy my whole life because of this Jedi code. And here you are. Turns out you're allowed to just break the code whenever you want. Who's really the evil one here?
Right. That's good. Good. Yeah. So you have
my friend
for Anakin.
Yeah, who's the evil one here? My friend who's been telling me it's okay to feel human and the Jedi are corrupt. And I should, be able to learn and feel human. So, or this person who's basically hated me my whole life, never trusted me, has told me that I should be basically a robot, and if I have any feelings at all, I'm not human. And now who's just about to break the rules just because he wants to. So who's the evil one here? And then you understand why Anakin made the choice that he made. And if you really look at these three movies, the third one is the tipping point where he's just like, he's had enough. And
you weren't Tim, you weren't offended by the wooden performances, the semi-pro aesthetics, the amateurish acting, the stiff cardboard blocking. None of that bothered you as the brilliant accumulation of character and story was unfolding?
You know what? The story was so good, it makes up for the lack of technology they had at that time.
Were you seeing them? So you were born in 1994. You're 5 years old when the first one comes out. Did you see it in theaters?
No. Well, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember.
You saw them later, like as a bundle. Like you were able to watch all three of them as a group.
Well, I saw the second one and I saw the third one in theaters.
Oh, okay. So you were a little more, because they were like 3 years apart or 2 years apart. So
yeah,
you were a little more cognizant. Yeah.
The third one, every time a commercial for that movie would come up, my eyes would be glued to the TV. Like I could not wait for this movie to come out.
Wait a second, but and at this point you were thoroughly a fan, like you said before, because of your grandmother's house, of the original trilogy, the 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, I was a fan.
Oh, and it's interesting because I will tell you, I'm very diplomatic. I'm always a matcher. I'm very agreeable. I will tell you, the prequels do not sit well in my mind, but I do remember thinking, it's even with Phantom Menace, that they were like, and again, it's the same way I feel about Last Jedi, though, on the other hand. I feel like they're like unfairly brutalized. Like people get carried away. Like, and I actually saw each of them twice in the theater, so I liked them enough to do that, and I remember when I saw Phantom Menace, I didn't think it was particularly good, but I thought what was really cool is that they got the house style back. Like it was the tone with the sound effects and the attitudes and the costumes, the texture of it. I was like, oh, it's Star Wars. Like they got it. Like Lucas brought it in. So there are things I like about all of them. I thought Jar Jar was abysmal. I think the special effects and the way the look holds up is just embarrassing. I thought Hayden Christensen, despite everything you're saying, like I love hearing your assessment of the character development and how you can sympathize with him and how he's something of a fallen or tragic hero. That's awesome. I just don't know if he was really up to it. He was like, I think he was a bit just overwrought and cringy, to use your words. So I don't know. But
I disagree with you. Anyone who granted, there's one scene in episode 3 where the dialogue is just so cringy. It's like, you turned her against me. It's like, it's totally cringy. But if you look at...
on the other hand, that's Star Wars. That's part of
this is true. Yeah. But you have to think of Hayden Christensen as an emotional, teenager.
Right. Like a spoiled brat.
Yeah, like a spoiled brat, emotional teenager who has a lot of freaking trauma.
Right. Okay.
And
Okay.
once you
Yeah.
see
I
him like
remember.
that, yeah, once you see him like that, you understand why his character's cringy because a
Right. Okay. Yeah.
emotional,
Yeah.
emotional, hormonal,
Mm,
traumatized teenager is gonna act
right.
cringy. It's gonna
Troubled.
happen. He
Yeah.
nailed it.
I,
He nailed the role.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. He was good. Did you ever see Shattered Glass, the journalism movie, where
No, no, I
he
didn't.
plays a journalist that he plays a journalist. It's a true story that lies. He was great in that. I was like, wow, this kid can really act. But one of my favorite moments in the whole trilogy, to go to what you were saying, is I love in part 3 when in the prequel trilogy when Natalie Portman says, "You're breaking my heart." I think that's an amazing moment. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's stuff in there that's good. I mean, you can't hold a candle to when Yoda picks up the lightsaber. That's insane. I mean, that makes that makes all of Attack of the
Yeah.
Clones worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But you know what's funny is to this day, and I've said this so many times, Star Wars Episode 3 has the coolest opening scene of any movie that I have ever seen.
I don't remember what happens again. I
So,
forgot.
so it starts in space, as they all do,
Okay.
and then it pans over to Obi-Wan and Anakin in their jet fighter, in their fighter,
Oh
their,
yeah,
their
yeah,
fighter
that's right.
jets,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
just flying. They're just flying, and they're flying perfectly in sync. And you're just like,
Yeah.
ooh, this looks good. Like they're doing all this stuff, and it's all perfectly in sync. And then, okay, it's not an actual camera, but when I say camera pans, you know what I mean.
Oh, sure. Sure.
So then they go flip over and they go down, and the camera kind of pans. Like this is the front of the camera right here. The camera
Yeah.
pans and looks down. You look down at an active war with tons of Star
Oh, that's right.
Destroyers,
Yeah, that is good.
droid
That's right,
ships, and
Yeah.
explosions and TIE
It's just
and
pure-
TIE fighter,
pure all-out
all this stuff on top of a planet. Like they're almost in orbit of this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a visual masterpiece.
Oh, nice. You're making
and
me want
then-
to take another look at them. Yeah.
You know what? I challenge you with
Okay.
the points that I brought up today. I challenge you to go and watch 1, 2, and 3 again, and
Okay.
keep an eye and think of it as Anakin's story arc.
Are we sure? It is. It's Anakin's origin story. It says,
Yeah.
Okay. No, fair enough. My phone is about to die because I keep getting warnings. So I'm worried I'm going to get cut off.
Yeah, no worries. We've been talking for a while. We should probably cut this off.
Yeah, I'm losing track of time, but I'm having a lot of fun. But I didn't realize it's funny because you and I think some of your viewers and listeners know this. You and I have worked on films together, and we're working on more. But I didn't realize what was funny about hearing you talk about Star Wars. I didn't realize how deep and how far it went. It didn't surprise me, but it's fun to see that side. And I know you were just giving me notes in the script we're working on. I'm like, holy God, his notes are fantastic. So it got me. I'm excited on that level too. Putting aside the fact that now I have to go watch the prequels. Yeah.
Yeah, so I am I'm not going to spoil anything about a film that me and you are working on, but I will say this. Now you understand why I was so fixated on one location, 2 characters, and just making a story out of almost nothing.
Well, you told. Yeah, you got to watch my second feature, Living Things, is 2 people at a dinner table. So I love that stuff. Number 1, number 2. You showed me your office building the other day when we were FaceTiming, and I've been jonesing really hard since then. I was like, we could set like a whole suspense, like you were saying, like one day, like a real time, like 80-minute scenario. Somebody's locked in there because it's a beautiful location. So I'm right there with you. I think it's an appreciation because you're a really good musician too. It's an appreciation of like aesthetic purity. It's like aesthetically, the parameters are very clear, and when you're in a clear zone, that's when the creativity really blooms. Yeah.
Everyone watching this film we're talking about that me and Eric are crafting is going to be amazing.
I'm very excited. Yeah.
Make sure you're paying attention and staying tuned for that. We're a little bit of a ways out, but hopefully we'll be officially announcing something soon.
We're battling a pandemic, so we'll be all right. We got to hang in there.
Yeah, but I think in the next month or 2 we'll have actually something to announce.
Definitely, yeah. And then there's more where that came from too. So
there's going to be a lot more. If we're both still around.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Well, there's a chance. Well, I think we both will be. I think I'll be here for a while. There's a chance. Mr. Alporn is referring to. There's a chance my family will relocate in light of a client we have in Texas, an account that Rhoda leads from the marketing division of our company, which is Rhoda's specialty and expertise, which I just support her on. There's a chance, but our household has been throwing that football around. We're going to see what happens. We'll see, but we'll play it as it lays. But believe me, my heart would be broken if I left our films behind. So one way or the other, we'll get them made.
I'm not letting you leave the films behind, even if you move out of state. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna work it into the production budget to fly you back.
We gotta do it. Yeah.
So that we can.
There's too much alignment. There's too much alignment. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off because we've been talking for a while, but
cool.
We didn't even scratch the surface of what
I know,
we could have talked about.
It's like we didn't even say hello yet, but it was good. It was it's always good. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, always a pleasure. But I'm gonna have to get you back on soon now.
Just say when. Say when. The pleasure's mine. Okay.
All right. I'll talk to you later. All right. Thanks everyone for watching.
Take care.
Bye.
Right, thank you. Bye-bye.